Bd7. Jimjara, the Storyteller. Story and Guidance. The Magical Council, 7 out of 32. Jimjara, the guiding force of fantasy and magic. The guiding force of fantasy and magic. Live your life as an imaginary and magical adventure. Quote, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." Albert Einstein. End of quote. Jimjara's story. As a crystal child of light, I received long time ago in the history of Crystallia the creation, the task of gathering stories from all over the universes, creating stories, writing and telling them and inspiring others with them. So it is my duty to share these special stories with anybody. There are so many special stories containing deep secrets and touching one's soul. When I was a young child, I always came up with the most beautiful stories, and everybody around me loved me for this gift. I lived on a barren planet, Trocton, where life was hard, but my stories brought a different kind of life that created lightness and a smile on people's faces. They brought back the magic in everybody's daily life, and the stories regarding Kandu the creator made everybody thinking about him and being thankful for the life we had on our planet. Maybe because we all started to think more about Kandu, we stopped complaining about our planet. And because our inner magical feelings returned, the real magic took place. It was when I was older, when I started to write each individual story down, that the entire planet changed into something really magical. I was traveling a lot at that time, and each morning after waking up, something would have magically appeared and standing on the spot where I had been writing the story the day before. In a way, the story became alive, and the area became like the environment described in the story. And this ranged from the most magical flower and herb gardens, fruit orchards, forests, meadows, farmlands, lakes, rivers, wells, fountains, hills, small villages, labyrinths, magical fairs, and theaters. And in addition, each area with its story environment surrounded itself with a section of a palace. Later I figured that the story had chosen its environment. This was truly magical, but there was more, because at the moment you enter that particular space, the story became alive with the environment, animals and people, and you became even part of the story. Imagine everybody who had lived a hard life in that area where I wrote the story, and now was drawn to its palace, where there was food and water, and of course, real magic. Our life changed completely, not only because I saw what happened, but everybody asked me to keep the magic going. Keep writing, Jim. Soon after, everybody called me Jimjara, but I have no idea why they gave me this name. I stayed for a while in one area, and after some time a complete palace with magical gardens, and around it forests and other environments had created itself. At one particular moment in my life, after writing a story of a magical carpet, the magical carpet of course became alive and allowed me to travel to distant planets and galaxies. Everywhere I went, I listened to the stories of others, and returning to my planet, where I wrote them down, and after a while, the entire planet became one big magical site of palaces. This was a moment in time when I thought my work was done, but the magic didn't stop there. The planet kept on growing from the inside, and there was always some barren place where I would sit down and wrote a new story. Many stories had deep hidden messages because they came from planets where the storytellers had difficulties because they were not allowed for political or religious reasons to share what they wanted to share. Other stories contained other secrets of life in order to live more harmoniously, but the messages were disguised inside the stories, because people in power didn't want that others knew the secrets of life, because then they had no power over those people anymore. Then there were many stories of individuals who expressed their inner experience in regards to their journey back to Kandu and the ocean of love. Then sometime later, my life changed again, because I became a magical travel agent. I kept traveling on my magical carpet through the shadow world, telling stories everywhere, and when I would find individuals open to become more aware about the secrets of life, I gave them a password and the inside of a secret door through which they could call upon me and travel to my special planet. When somebody calls upon me, I am there to pick them up on my carpet or one of my co-workers called light carriers, and we travel to my planet, which is now called Fairy Tale Palace Planet. My entire planet became the place or archives for old stories. Now, the entire planet has many magical kingdoms with palaces, magical forests and mountains of indescribable beauty. Each palace, garden, village, forest and mountain is now the home of a particular story. And while the amount of stories kept growing, so did the planet, with more palaces, gardens and forests. It is the most magical place you can imagine. Here, every rock, wall, palace room, fountain, garden, tree, plant, river, lake, orchard, forest, hill and mountain all is alive and has a face or personality, so to speak, and of course connected to a story. Visitors from all over the universe enter my world by invitation only, and nobody ever forgets this magical place. Everybody returns to their home planet with a heart full of fantasy, imagination and magic. It is a special place for children who can go on a treasure hunt to find particular stories. They have to find out the deeper meaning of the story, making drawings, or even create a theater performance expressing the stories, or writing rhymes about them. The power of fantasy, imagination and magic is a gift from Kandu, the creator, who wants us all to be and stay like children. Children have still that magic that adults while growing up slowly lose. Children are vital and have zest and do not want to sleep as they see adventure and play in everything. They are magic and creating magic around them. And the most important, they have like saint-like qualities. Keep looking at life through the eyes of a child, and life stays magical. In general, children are forced out of this stage, being a child and enjoying their magical world, because it all needs to make sense, and they need to be prepared for the real world. Quote, "If there is anything we wish to change in the child, we should first examine it and see whether it is not something that could better be changed in ourselves." Carl Gustav Jung. End of quote. We also have schools here, but they are all to re-empower the child. Each child gets explained that all knowledge is already inside, but in order to get this knowledge to the surface, one needs a proper environment with the teachers and the mentors, the trainers, educators and guides to assist the children. The educational system, other than homeschooling, which I really encourage, are all about playful learning. And then we organize trips to the sacred archives and the magical university of life, where everybody learns about the basics of life science, which is the foundation for all other education. I am as well one of the faculty members of this university and always eager to enhance the life of individuals through magical and educational stories. I believe, like many other magical and Sacred Council members that this is the most important, as it is about understanding how everything functions in the body, mind, nature and universe. This information, which I look upon, is like a manual and is a must to have. Most individuals have forgotten that we are souls, crystal children of light, that we are on an adventure, but without a manual explaining the rules and regulations in this foreign world, which we call Crystallia, we are in a lot of trouble. In addition, individuals come to live here with a family, and they have a refreshment course about other basic things, like cleaning, gardening, cooking, ironing, and many other basic skills that we have lost in the modern world. Our regular schools are all about playful learning, and all the teachers are magical persons. We have Master Calculus, who explains that everything in creation can be measured, has a weight and size, and teaches about numbers. Master Historics has his way of making everything into a history story, and he does this in rhyme format, and most kids never forget about what they learn by him. With Master Geo, you travel the world to find out how others live, and in what conditions, and what their surroundings are, and what they make and eat. Master Bioman explains a lot about the physical makeup of the plants and the animals and the humans. Master Sound teaches music, and Master Arten conducts art classes. When we want to learn more about nature, we visit Niyama on her planet Gemestos in Vinex, and the children go on a short vacation to Kahila, the magic farmer. On many of my travels, I give lectures about the topic, what is real? And each time I still get surprised to hear individuals claiming that the world of the adult is real and the world of the child unreal. Both worlds are a creation of the mind and not real, not permanent, and not places where one can find everlasting happiness and joy. But at least the world of the child is much more pleasant. Everybody just needs to start playing as a child make-believe, and the walls going with each stage, if that stage is at home, at work, or whatever. We all need to learn to play our roles well, like good actors do, and not taking it all too serious by thinking that it is real. I started this school after a court case in which I defended Jenai Summer, who is now also one of the Sacred Council members, who was standing trial and was almost taken from her parents to live with other parents in the such-called real world. Let me tell you a little bit what happened. The Court of Realities. Jenai had always lived in homes that had been changed into the most magical decorated places. Jenai's mama, Shani, was an excellent artist. Each room in the entire house, the walls and the ceilings were used to create different worlds with magical, multi-dimensional doors and pathways, endless, waving themselves into each other. The halls had often mirrors and arches creating endless worlds. Ceilings had imaginary galaxies and planets, inspiring one and inviting one into beautiful dreams. The fabrics she used created the feeling of being in an incredible warm and lush world. The music and incense were always there, making the experience more mystical and magical. The kitchens were decorated with valleys and herb gardens, giving it the feeling as if one was outdoors in gardens. When the house had a cellar, it was lighted in a very dim manner, and the sceneries she painted depicted caves, forests with all kinds of magical hidden characters. The bedrooms were painted in such a way that you had a 360-degree view of looking at oceans and lakes and waterfalls and rivers. The furniture and art objects were a combination from cultures from all over the world, which they had gathered while traveling. The study room, when available, had whiteboard walls available for instant calculation, notes, etc. Her father Matthias was especially good at geography and history and would invite Jenai to help draw and paint the study projects from her homeschooling project on these walls. Jenai Summer was homeschooled, by the way. When there were garden spaces available, Jenai and her mom would create vegetable and herb gardens and dress them up with magical sculptures. Those homes which did not have the space for an outdoor garden was replaced with trays of herbs and smaller plants. The room for Jenai, and later in life the rooms for the young twins, the brother and sister, always had scenes reflecting many of my stories. There were always special doors painted, which were the doors to Fairy Tale Palace. Every home had always been a real magical place with lots of adventures to experience and doors to different worlds. The real magic was seemingly just for Jenai's family, because when others visited, all for them was just creative paintings. When people didn't believe in this kind of magic, and most people didn't, the magic would not be there for them. It all started with an elderly couple being sent by the government, which had visited their house, and they were very opinionated about anything. Jenai had been listening in to the conversation, which at one certain point became all about her. She heard the people saying that it was not good to keep Jenai in the world of fantasy and imagination, which was unreal, and that she needed to be brought into the real world. She felt criticized, but more she felt for her parents. Basically, these people were telling them that they were doing the wrong thing with her. She went to the meditation space of her father, sat down in the position she had seen her father sitting in, and closed her eyes. A flash of awareness had entered, and she decided to visit me in Fairy Tale Planet. She walked to the spot in the house where her mother had painted one of the magical doors, used the password, and stepped through it. Of course, I had been waiting for her on my flying carpet, and I flew her to another world where everything was made from old newspapers, and I took her to the Court of Realities. Inside, it is an old courthouse with old-looking benches and the walls covered with books and titles. The judge, with his black robe and white curly wig, called Jenai and asked her to take place in the witness stand. As soon as she had taken place, the judge spoke. Jenai, you have been accused of living in a make-believe world. We hope you can prove the accusers wrong, otherwise you will have to be leaving your world and move to one your accusers think best for you. Jenai looked at the prosecutor and also saw the couple sitting in the front. They looked slightly different as their faces were bigger and out of proportion compared with the rest of the body, but they resembled the elderly couple from at home. I told Jenai that I would be her lawyer, and she calmed down because everything went so fast. The prosecutor had mentioned how her house looked like and that everything was about fantasy, imagination and magic, and she was asked if this was true. She had answered yes, after which the prosecutor had addressed the judge. Jenai admits to live in a make-believe world, so send her to other parents to live in a real world. I had interrupted the prosecutor and asked the judge to maybe not make a mistake with his verdict and sending her into another make-believe world. By using these words, the entire court case took another direction, because now it became first about what is real and what is a make-believe world. I had asked the judge for the couple to be in the witness stand and asked them several questions. I had asked the couple where they had lived before they were born and where they would go after they would die. They didn't know what to say other than mentioning heaven. So I asked them if they believed in God and in heaven and paradise. They had answered with yes, and were even agitated, questioning them about the existence of God. I asked them which proof they had in regards to heaven and even God, and had made even the comment that maybe God is not real, because you cannot see him, and that heaven and paradise would be possibly just a fantasy, something unreal. After they gave no answer, I had continued questioning them. Is it correct to say that the word real means something permanent and everlasting? As they had answered reluctantly with yes, I had bombarded them with questions like, is the world you are living in not constantly changing? Is everything not having a lifespan and then disappears again? Where can you hold on to and where is security? Are you not a result of how you were raised and trained by your parents, culture, and the schooling you had? What we call real, is that not a result of a belief that is repeated until we live that reality? For sure you are afraid of something, and is that not a result of what I just mentioned? I had pinned them down, and after each question they had to say yes. And after bombarding them, I softened my tone of voice and intensity and approached the judge. Dear Judge, these people admit also not living in a real world, but just in another make-believe world. So I hope nobody makes the mistake to send Genai away. The prosecutor had changed angles to the situation and stated that Genai had no chance to survive in that other world with her way of upbringing. I had come up with an endless row of names of great people in science and mysticism, and inventors and writers and artists and musicians who all lived in another world and lived their lives in the such-called real world. The prosecutor had wanted to go on and probably continuing with the reality he was just familiar with, but in the meantime the elderly couple realized their shortcomings and their limited point of view and told the prosecutor to stop. The case was dismissed as it was decided that the entire adventure in creation was a make-believe adventure within the world of the mind. After I had brought Shania back to her home, she went into the living room where those two people had been sitting talking with her parents, but they had gone. Shania had asked her parents what had happened to the two strange individuals, and her mother and father explained that something unusually had happened during the meeting. They explained that during their talk suddenly two of the magical invisible doors that are leading to Jimjara had opened, and that four of his light carriers had come into the living room and had picked up the couple, and they all disappeared on the magical carpets, after which the doors had closed themselves. The couple had just returned before Genai showed up and had left in a hurry the house. I think that it is wise for anybody not to take things too serious and encourage everybody to play make-believe in their profession, business, with health, projects, relationships and everything. It was shortly after this that we at Fairytale Palace Planet erected schools, workshops and courses in regards to healthy relationships building and constructive parenting. Two schools that were not present, but subjects and areas in most people struggle endlessly. Then we elaborated on professional skills of every kind, from learning the skills of a secretary, carpenter, banker, nurse, doctor, school teacher, and mention any profession. The only thing what we did different here was that next to the learning of the skills of being a professional, one learns to act the best way possible in order to be in that profession. We based this on the life of children who play out to be a carpenter, a nurse, a shop owner, and any other profession. We all know that everything is a make-believe, and instead of being the professional through which individuals too strongly identify with that profession, we teach them how to play and act that profession. It is just a matter of staying aware that we are all actors on the stage of the theater of life, and that we must play our roles well. Kandu, the creator, is watching us being on the stage. The students coming from these schools and courses get less stressed out and are in less emotional turmoil when working, because they see their position and profession as an act or a role they need to play, without falling down in the emotional identification, connections and traps. Life can be magical, but we must play it with our imagination. A study regarding what is real and what is make-believe. To make an investigation of what is real is probably a must, but we must first come to the realization what is real. Real is something that is forever, which never changes. The creation, however, is created with opposites, bound to time and changes every second. Here, some thoughts on the subject. What I feel real, especially pain, that is what is real. The pain we experience is never the same and changing, just like an injury, which is very painful in the beginning, but it subsides when the healing takes place. What I touch is real. How long will that what I touch be around? Because everything gets older and one day will disintegrate. What I see is real. Is not everything around us, like ourselves, constantly changing? It is a stage that changes and where actors come and go. Together with several other faculty members of the Sacred Council, I have conducted some courses at the Magical University of Life, at the Sacred Archives, about the subject, what is real and what is make-believe. Paratov, the guiding force of repetition, would explain you that everything you think, say and do is all a result of repetition. The repetition of skills, but also what we hear and read and kept on repeating from when we were young, the taste, the music and actually everything we like or not. Imagine being born on the other side of the planet with different parents, with a different environment. Everything we believe and take for real today would be different. When you got everyday cheese when you were young, you either like or dislike cheese. And when you never tasted ice cream, you wouldn't even know what it is. And you would not have even a craving for it. Destiny, the guiding force of causality, action and reaction, would add saying that every action has not one but many reactions, and the sum total of this is the reality you have to live in. Butterfly, the guiding force of change, would give you the answer by telling you that have the magic of change on your side, and that through repetition you can change almost everything. And when you cannot change things physically, you can always change your perspective and your reactions to it. Mariah Moore, the guiding force of the inner teacher, would guide you to rise above the world of mind and matter, which we call real, and to look at it all from an observer's point of view. Kandu, the creator himself, would invite you by saying, find out who you really are, and come to me in the real world, where you live forever. Dionyx, the guiding force of the true disciple, and Janai, the guiding force of your inner hero, are always encouraging anyone to break away from the familiar and to go into the void, into the unfamiliar, and that's adventure. I conclude encouraging you to see everything as a magical imaginary adventure, and to watch out for Kalimubanko, the governor of the mind, who has the duty to keep us under the spell of believing that we, others, and this world is real. Kalimubanko, the governor of the mind, calls the mind a shopping center, and I call it a toy shop. Kalimubanko is called the one with the many faces, as every character is within everybody, and we here play out it in our masked balls inside the castles and on Mardi Gras celebrations, which is held every year and has parades everywhere on my planet. The masked balls. Every day in one or more of the castles, masked balls are being organized. It is just wonderful to see how everybody dresses up, and especially the masks everybody wears. In general, as individuals, we choose the mask we are usually afraid of, or those characters we like very much. Where do you like to dress up into, or which mask are you choosing for Halloween or Mardi Gras? There is good music, dance and healthy foods, and at the last hour of the ball, everybody is allowed to look behind the mask of others. But I play a special trick in this case, because I gave everybody under their mask they wear a white plastic mask without any expression. So when you look behind the first mask of anybody, you always find the same mask. I try to make everybody understand that under all the masks we wear, that there is one mask that is the same. Aren't we all crystal children of light, souls and brothers and sisters? I love to remind every visitor that we are in essence the same, but that we came to the masked ball of life. You are all the masks and characters within the fairy tale. Act them out, but do not become the character, and later in life act the professional mask and character, but do not become it. You are the prince, the princesses, the angels and the fairies when you are sweet and nice to others. At times you are the funny Mickey Mouse, the troubled Donald Duck, the fragile Bambi, the pureness of Snow White, the courage of Simba, the strength of Mulan. But you are also the goblins, the witches and the warlocks, yes, all the bad guys as well. You are the Captain Hook, always in a hurry, fighting with and afraid of time, and always overpowered by the magic and innocence of Peter Pan. You don't have to be afraid of any of these characters, for they are part of your story of life. The only thing I have to warn you for is to not become any of these characters. Always remind yourself that you are a crystal child of light, a soul and child of Kandu, the Creator, and on an adventure to experience all these different characters and masks. The Toy Shop. Let's imagine that life and this world is a magical toy shop with endless sections with different toys. A world in which you can find and can play with an incredible variety of toys. We can play with other people, professions, money, name and fame, food, sports, beauty, politics, creating a business, traveling, worrying, anger, depression, building a family, illness, health, and the possibilities are endless. It is a game, a play where you as children, even in an adult body, can experience life on planet Earth. The most important fact to make this experience into a bearable experience is to remember that we are souls and live forever, but the toys belonging to the world must stay in the world after we leave the worldly stage. The struggle and pain comes only when we get attached to the toys that belong to Crystallia, the creation. Our real home has no need for worldly toys. Many times we forget that our real parents are not the ones in this creation. This worldly family members are just our playmates with a different role to play. We all come alone, and one day we depart alone. Forgetting this very important fact has brought so much pain in the worldly experience. How easily do we mistake the toy shop for real, and we get too seriously involved with everything and everybody. All of these toys are just given to us for a while, but look how we try to collect, hold and fight with others over them. All the toys are magical as they come and suddenly disappear. When we become possessive and trying to control and fight for the toys in creation, we really lose the magic. When we just play, we are in the magic. We can think about things in the past and instantly they are there, right before us in our mind. Is that not magical? We can travel inside our mind anywhere we want. We are away from our Creator, but we can even imagine Him before us and play in His presence. This kind of magic we can bring into our lives any minute of the day. The deeper meaning of the fairy tales. Many stories that are labeled as children's stories have deep mystical messages, and many speak about us as souls, how we get trapped in the creation. There are stories about how our Savior shows up, the hard work we need to do in order to get out of the trap, and how we reunite to live forever again. Take the story of Snow White, where Snow White represents that essence within all of us as crystal children of light, that purity and love, our soul. This pure love is hidden in the body of Snow White, who is dwelling in the creation, where everything is created with an opposite. In her, the power of love shines through in her behavior. The enemy, or opposite side, is her stepmother, representing the mind, which is always putting itself before and above that eternal pure beauty of love. So the mind, or stepmother, wants to crush that pure love hidden in the human body. It doesn't want that anybody finds out and identifies with that purity, otherwise the mind loses its power over it. So the stepmother is not somebody on the outside, but right inside us, in the human body, in which we have called it the mind. The mind cannot kill the soul, as the essence is Kandu, the creator of all. So the huntsman cannot kill her. She escapes into the forest, which is still in the realm of creation, representing the human body and human sphere created with 7 main energy centers, each representing certain functions and connected to everything else in creation. So the 7 dwarfs, with their individual characters and dressed in the 7 colors of the rainbow, are a part of the creation, and Snow White tries to hide out with them. However, the 7 centers are still part of the created world, thus Snow White still got tricked by her stepmother, the mind, disguised in endless ways. Kalimobanko, the one with the many faces. These are the endless temptations which our mind, or in other words Kalimobanko, has in order to keep us away from discovering who we really are. We all have fallen asleep and became unconscious of Kandu and our real self. So, in the end, it is the Prince, a real pure soul, which is Kandu the Creator himself in disguise, which is pure love, and only love can love love, and comes to rescue and wake Snow White up. She goes with her Savior, and they live happily ever after, or in other words, forever. This is the uniting of us as souls, drops with the ocean of love and Kandu the Creator. In other stories, the connection to the mind is explained as a spell which is put upon us as crystal children of light. We all forget that we are a soul, and by identifying with the creation, we are asleep and need to be woken up. The love relationships in these stories are not to be looked upon as worldly relationships, which most people do, and get disappointed with the reality of creation, created in duality. Worldly love has two sides, but our true essence, being drops of the ocean of love and Kandu, is a relationship of unconditional love, and is a life together for all times. You can believe this explanation or not, but it shows us that we can learn from any story, which can be looked at as a secret message. But even going further than this, because everything that happens in your life can be looked at as a magical message and story. Kandu gives us his help in order to wake up and to rediscover the soul within us, which is that pure and innocent child. Everything is reminding us that all is a make-believe, and that one day we will return home to happily live forever. Life is a fairy tale, a make-believe world, and when we are confronted with the endless fairy tale characters, we like or not, but know that they're inside of us. Even animals in the stories are behaviors within ourselves. Look with the right eye, and the magic of the fairy tale comes alive with everything you do. Living with higher virtues through stories. The stories which I share with you all have a message inside and a deeper meaning, and by listening carefully we can take the best qualities of the characters, although knowing that the bad ones exist, and we can learn to play with the best ones in our life. How I can help you in your life. Quote, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." Alvin Toffler. End of quote. I am Jimjara, the guiding force of fantasy and magic. And you know me when you go into the feeling and the realm of fantasy and magic, dreaming, reading, or listening to magical children's stories, visiting a fair, magical play parks, looking at parades, or walking in the streets during celebration times when everything depicts magic. I am the guiding force of fantasy and magic and master storyteller, reminding you through endless stories that everything can be magic, and that this world is a make-believe world. All is a fantasy world within your mind, like a stage on which we as actors come and go and play our acts. I try to remind you not to fall for living a too serious life and losing your childhood magic. I also assist you in finding the hidden and deeper meaning in fairy tales, which are magical and inspiring stories of life here and beyond. In my opinion, there are only two ways to live life. When you are too serious, you will end up in sadness and possibly cry. But when you go with a smile on your face through life and constantly keeping alert that it is just a movie, you will be able to laugh with it. Keep looking through your eyes of your inner child, and it will assist you to accomplish that mission. Live your life as a magical adventure and be that magical smiling light wherever you are. Discoveries and treasures. Look at everything you learn and what happens in life as finding new treasures, and even pain and sickness is one of them, at least when we learn from that experience. Being a child, play outdoors as much as possible and do not let the TV, the computer and computer games take your magic away. They will do this because they rob you from your imagination. Invent games yourself and make everything into a fun game or a discovery or treasure hunt. Look at everything you can learn at school or through homeschooling as a magical treasure hunt. Learning about the ABC, and soon you have the magic of knowing how to write. Learn languages, and you have the magic to speak with people from other countries. Learn to be faster instead of waiting what others tell you to do, and you discover the magic of a certain freedom, not having people on your back. Learn to take care of yourself, and soon you discover the magic of feeling independent. Learn about old home remedies when you're not well, and soon you have the magic in regards helping and healing yourself when you're not well, and maybe you can help others. Learn the magic of working with plants, music, arts, and crafts, and last but not least, learn from the sacred council members, and your life can stay truly magical. Play your roles well. Feel being at a masked ball and being a child. Stay the child and do not take on the characters and masks of the adults around you, which are rigid, bossy, boring, nagging, and complaining, which, by the way, you provoke by resisting to play your role in the magic of theater. You have to listen, and you have to want to learn. Otherwise, you get yourself into trouble. Learn to play the role of a good student, the inspirational daughter or son, or by doing so, you feel better, and your parents and educators will feel better as well. Watch out for taking on the mask and characters connected to violence, and do not become the witch by making poison, which you make when you argue and resist. It poisons your body and everything around you. You are the goblin and the devil when you fight with others and try to play power games. You become that slimy and sneaky person when you're not nice and try to sneak away from things, or when you do things that you're not allowed to do. You become the monster when you make it impossible for others to work with you. You become that old and dirty character when you do not take care of yourself. You become that ugly and creepy mask and character when you wish harm to come to others, or when you tell lies that not just you, but even others get into trouble. Be the Robin Hood, the Mulan, and be helpful to others. Be the clown and make others laugh. Be the prince and princesses and present yourself as beautiful as possible. Be the Superman or Superwoman and feel healthy and keep your body fit. Be the angel where everybody is drawn to and learn to tell stories and start reading mine. All of these masks and characters are part of your story, but you need to stay the director. Otherwise, some of them are going to take over your life. So try to play with the more nicer characters and never forget that it's all a make-believe. You are just on the stage in the theater of life. Once we accept this, we can keep the magic going and become good actors. You will all forget this, but through my stories and rhymes, I will remind you that you are not from here, and that one day you will be picked up by the prince who is Kandu in disguise in order to return home. So enjoy the stories of your life, but don't forget to make your own life into a beautiful story. And especially, don't forget that you have endless characters within you, and that you are the director of your own fairy tale. Play with nice toys. Never forget that everything in the world is like a toy which you can play with, but you must learn to play well. Let's remember each day that you are in the toy shop and you need to face every event with that playful attitude, no matter how serious the situation may look. You may not be able to throw unwanted toys out because they belong to the toy shop, but you do not have to feel stuck with them. Choose for positive play with positive toys. You can start playing with some different toys such as healthy nutrition, awareness, nice communication, cleaning, helping in the home, working in the garden, creating deep friendships, sports, exercises, art, and other health-related subjects. And do not forget the most important. You can play before and with Kandu, the creator. It is important to make some healthy choices in order to keep life in the toy shop bearable. Otherwise, it becomes stressful and painful. Let's play with joy and harmony. Life can be more than what you are experiencing today. It is just a matter of stepping through the doors of different toy sections. Realize that at certain times it feels that one section to certain toys is shut, but know that there is maybe a reason for that, and also know that there are other toy sections open. There is so much you can play with. Here are some more magical tricks. Never forget that you have a magical wand. Change anything when it doesn't serve a healthy purpose, and do this through repetition. Adventure and taste different things. Go to different places, learn and discover new things, and your life stays magical. Train and play out all your characters well, and become the best actor on the stage of your life. Use your magical wand, even when you cannot change the situation you're in, but you can look at the situation differently. Fantasy and magic. Remain in the world of fantasy and magic. Stay a child forever, which is the magic trick. You are the director of many characters and masks. Play your roles well, which is one of your main tasks. Everything is part of your personal fairy tale or movie. Keep it light, stay adventurous, and make it groovy.